Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight is open topic, open discussion with a few questions thrown in. So we'll get into that in just a minute. And just so you know, for those that don't remember, Glenn is still away with Sandra on a cruise. So we hope that they're doing well. Haven't heard from him since last weekend. I'm assuming everything is still fine. And so he'll be back not next week, but the week after, I think. But I'll have to go back through the chat logs and see when that's going to be. So it'll be the three of us tonight. And for those of you listening the first time, my name is Jason. I'm the host of tonight's broadcast. And with me, sans Glenn, we have Marisa of the Nez Lover channel, who hasn't been feeling too well, but feels better tonight. So we'll take it. And she is hopefully feeling good enough, at least, to be with us here. So, Nez, say hello to the peoples, please.
Hello to the peoples. And yes, I feel a lot better than I have these last couple of weeks, man. It was rough. Whew! Sinus stuff. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. Thank you for tuning in to True Story Live here on Sunday. We're having open topic tonight, and it's true, we don't have Glenn with us tonight, but love and prayers for him and Sandra as they're out on their holiday cruise. Yeah. And we look forward to having him back again real soon, God willing. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will be posting some links of people, of my friends that I know that come by that want their links shared as the broadcast goes on. If you would like your link shared, please let us know. We'll share it for you. If you do not want your link shared, let us know and we will respect your wishes. That being said, I'm looking forward to getting hip deep in an open discussion tonight with some questions thrown in. Woo-hoo!
I like it. Yeah. Thanks, Marisa. Appreciate that. And my wife, Jennifer, is also with us tonight, as she always is. And Jen, take a minute to say hello to the peoples, please.
Hello, peoples. I'm really tired tonight, although in good spirits. But if y'all hear me yawn, it's not for the company or I'm bored. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
Good to be here, guys.
No, I'm glad that you're here. So how is everyone's Thanksgiving?
Good.
Yeah.
We had a good time up in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yep. Yeah, sure did. And did pretty good with it. Yeah, did pretty good with the eating and didn't overdo it, which in the past years I have tended to do. In fact, got home and a couple days later weighed myself and didn't gain any weight. So that's I think that's a victory. We had two Thanksgivings, though. Technically, we had one at one family, which was not a typical Thanksgiving dinner. It was very good. Just was not actually, with all the what I would consider the traditional stuff that you have. But then the next day, it was more traditional, a bigger gathering at Jen's other brother's house, and yeah, it was good. And then Jen and I came back on Saturday, got back in, I don't know, what was it, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
And we didn't do a broadcast last night. We just decided to let everyone enjoy their Thanksgiving, including ourselves, and just relaxed. And then back to the grind on Tuesday, Monday for Jen. And then this week seemed to go by pretty quick, and here we are on the weekend again. And so you know everything there is to know.
Yep.
Yeah. Marisa, how was your Thanksgiving? I know you had your son Jason come home for the weekend.
Yeah, Jason was here, and even though I wasn't feeling that great, I still managed to put something together. We had, the standard turkey and stuffing and all of that, so it was just nice to be together and have a quiet little dinner. And actually on Thanksgiving, Diana and her dad went to her grandma's, so I was just by myself enjoying some appetizers. while I waited for them to
Good.
come back and bring me a to-go plate. So,
Yeah, sure.
Nice.
so
Nothing
I
wrong
got
with
to have
that.
some quiet time as well, which I enjoyed very much.
Oh, good.
Good.
Good. Did you get a chance to have some pie of some sort? And if so, what kind of pie or dessert did you have?
Not on actual Thanksgiving proper, but because I didn't feel up to making a pie and something befell the heating element, and I've got to call maintenance. So I
Oh
had to do
no.
what I could do on top of the stove. Jason was kind enough to go grab some Amish fry pies, so we
Oh,
still had pie of some sort.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is
nice.
pie of some sort.
and yeah, the fry pies, ooh,
So what is a fry pie?
like the Hostess deep fried pies, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Oh, I don't know if I've ever had one of those.
Hostess fruit pies, lemon, cherry, you know,
Sure you
they
have.
used to.
No,
Yeah,
it's
It's pretty
probably
good.
because it's probably because I haven't I don't like baked fruit,
Oh,
which is weird because I like pumpkin pie,
yeah.
but like I've never tried apple pie or kiwi lime pie or cherry
Well,
pie or anything like that. I don't know why. It just
The Amish grocery in town will put some of their goods in some of the stores here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really, really good. They have them all individually wrapped in homemade cookies, and
Hmm.
it's
yum.
all good. Mm.
Well, I'm a big fan. I've talked about it a few times. My grandparents, in the town where they lived, there's a big Amish community, and I talked about how we would go to the closest Amish farm. They had a little country store, sold all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff in there, and my grandpa would get donuts and pies, and sometimes venison and some other things. But yeah, it's always high quality food, and yeah.
Good
Um,
ingredients.
so Jen, McDonald's even sells a version of this with the apple pies. You know, it comes in a
Yeah.
box, and
I've seen that. I just have I've never had them before.
well, you
And
got
McDonald's, I'm sorry, but McDonald's used to have the deep fried pumpkin pie, which
Oh
was
my.
really, really good. Yeah. Woo.
oh, I
Sorry.
never no,
Sounds
that's okay.
yummy.
I never
Sweet
tried
pumpkin
that.
pie.
Gotta try that if you can try that. Ooh.
But Krispy Kreme makes them too, and they have like a Boston cream,
See that I
which
could go
is
for.
really good. You don't even have to warm it up. I mean, I think mainly they're made to pack in a lunch, and you just take the wrapper off and dig
And
in.
eat it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I tell you
but
what, though, this year was the first time I've actually, which is so weird, first time I've actually had sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows on top,
yeah,
and I am in love. I was
that was the
literally
first
like,
time.
first time.
I
I
didn't
knew I'd
realize
like it. I
that.
just hadn't tried it before,
Oh,
because sweet potatoes taste like pumpkin pie, kind of. And
yeah,
oh, I'm a marshmallow girl,
yeah. Okay.
I
especially
can't
toasted marshmallow.
believe that's the first time you've had
It's
it. Oh
crazy.
my
It's so
God.
crazy. I
Wow.
Where
grew
you
up
been
thinking
hiding, girl?
like orange stuff, food that was orange was like in my mind. I thought, oh, it's not going to be good.
Oh,
So I hadn't tried sweet potatoes until I was like in my late 20s. I
hmm,
was like, where have I been? Oh my gosh, this is so good.
yeah.
Have you ever had the sweet potato pie?
I have not, but I have a feeling I would love it.
Well, if you like pumpkin pie, do you like pumpkin pie?
I do. I love it.
Then that's just a scooch over from sweet potato pie. Now get thee to Walmart and try that Patty LaBelle pumpkin pie. You'll be
Oh,
taking a bite and going, on my own. You'll love it. It'll be great. Just
Now,
my pie.
if you had to choose between sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie, what would you choose, Nez?
Oh, they're both good, but I grew up with pumpkin pie. But hey, don't
Yeah.
shove Patty LaBelle aside.
No,
No.
can't do that.
No. There's
Patty
room
LaBelle
for
does
her
not
too.
go in a corner.
no, no, she does not.
No, sir.
She
No, ma'am.
does not. No. I saw Patty LaBelle at the local amusement park at Carrotlands back in the
Really?
90s. Yeah. A couple other people. Alanis Morissette was there. There was some kind of music festival they had.
Oh,
It was,
sweet.
yeah, it was good.
I don't think they do that anymore at I don't think they do that as often as at amusement parks,
Well,
or do they? And I just haven't heard about them.
I don't know. I really don't know. I just know they used to do that. They used to have musical groups come out there, and you
Gosh,
could,
that's awesome. Ride a
buy
roller
ticket.
coaster while jamming out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm sure the roller coasters or the rides that are around the amphitheater, you could probably hear the music from there for sure.
Sweet. I don't know
Anyway.
if Busch Gardens ever did that.
I don't know. Busch Gardens does have the Oktoberfest themed kind of music coming out when they do that sort of thing.
Yeah. Hey, John Don says we have Mennonites who run an apple themed restaurant. That sounds yummy.
Oh.
And then Annette said McDonald's cherry pie was good, but they got rid of it and kept the meh apple pie. How dare they keep the meh?
That's great. Well,
I like that, Annette.
Yeah. How was everybody in the chat? How was your Thanksgiving? If you
guys, share. What was y'all's favorite food to eat this year?
Yeah.
My sister-in-law had she had made the casserole, the sweet potato casserole, that was delicious. And she also made stuffing. And Jason, I don't know if you liked it, but I loved it. Like, I know the stovetop stuffing has a specific taste to it, but her stuffing was just, I thought it was out of this world.
No, I mean, the stovetop stuffing's better than nothing, but no, that's, I like,
hers was like homemade from scratch.
Yeah, I like homemade.
Delicious.
But one of my favorite items is the green bean casserole for some reason. I'm not a huge
Something about those crunchy onions with the green beans.
Right?
Something about it's like something magical happens.
Something magical happens in my mouth. Yeah.
My taste buds are dancing.
That's right.
We'll have to do an art challenge with that. Taste buds dancing. That would be great. I don't know if it would be the round table, another round table, the what was it, poker with the cryptids.
That was awesome.
That was so good.
Yeah.
That was Bobby that came up with that idea, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, she's creative in her thoughts. My goodness.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, it worked out good. And that says we went to sushi and hibachi buffet. The hibachi was awesome.
Wow.
I've never been to a hibachi grill. Have you guys?
Yes.
I've heard about it. Heard that's good. Excuse my tinkling.
They have one in Pineville. I think it's still there. And they have sushi and other things too, but we did the hibachi. You did go to one. Remember when we went with Shannon and Kyle? Yeah, that's a hibachi.
Oh, is that the cooking the food on the big flat metal stove?
Yeah.
You know, with the onion lava thing. Okay, I have been to one then. I think I thought it was something else.
Yeah.
I think it was the Japanese steakhouse that I haven't been to. I've heard those were really popular for a while.
Yeah, the one I went to, they had the hibachi grill, and they also had sushi boats. So they have this little canal with boats that move around, and you can pick what kind of sushi you want and put it on your plate. And then they charge
off the boats?
Off the boats, correct.
That sounds fancy. Yeah. What are the restaurants? I don't know if this is the Japanese steakhouse, but like they give you all this meat, but it's from, I don't know if it's different kinds of meat, and there's like a flag that you put up if you want more. I don't know. It's something crazy sounding.
Joe worked at a place like that. It's a Brazilian steakhouse.
There you go. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Not Japanese, but Brazilian.
Brazilian steakhouse. Yeah, they do that sort of thing. You get to try a bunch of stuff, and then when you find something you like, you let them know, and they bring you more of that. Yeah.
That sounds fun.
I think
it ought to be a dating service that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speed dating like they used to do. Just bring me more of this one.
Yeah.
More men like this one.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I love it.
Save some time.
Well,
he said, "Love it." Have you done one of those before, Jason? Speed dating?
No, but it sounds like not speed dating. I was talking about the food, not the speed dating.
You're like, love it. I was like, okay.
I was talking about the food. Like you try something for 5 minutes and then
yeah.
Something
for Glenn for the replay. There you go, Glenn. Do on that.
Okay. All right.
He's like, I know how this guy's. All right, we're coming at you.
Yep.
No, everything's good.
Good.
We've got a few people in the chat. Jen, why don't you take a second to say hello to the peoples in the chat?
Absolutely. Well, Nez popped in first. I guess Pammy might have been in, but she
Pammy
disappeared.
was here. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes they clip off the first couple people. It's weird. Christ is the truth is here. Hey, buddy. John Dons is here. He says, I'm dying up here. Play me off, Johnny.
He was making some jokes, I guess.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
who Dr. Nick is.
But
He's saying, hi, Dr. Nick. I don't know who Dr. Nick is.
Yeah. That's my pseudonym. No, just kidding.
Oh, you know what? Maybe it's the Muppets.
Oh, maybe.
Johnny
from
the Muppets, Dr. Nick. I think that's what it is.
Annette is here. Hey, Annette.
Yeah.
And I think that might be it for right now. Oh, Bubba News just popped in. Bubba News.
There you go.
Hey, Bubba. How was your Thanksgiving? I don't know if you celebrate Thanksgiving, but
it's gotten weird with the holidays. It's like so many people are swearing off certain holidays, and because with Thanksgiving, the youngsters are thinking that it was some kind of wholesale slaughter of the Indians and all that, and historically that's not what happened. But they want to change the name from Thanksgiving to something else, and how they get. So. But of course, Christmas, that's been happening with Christmas for a long time. You have plenty, quote unquote, Christians that feel like it's pagan and they're not celebrating anymore. So then they argue with the people that really love Christmas. And, and then the whole, not saying Christmas, but saying happy holidays. I mean, So when back in the day, you just say happy Thanksgiving to someone or Merry Christmas. But now, as not to offend people, there's like I have to throw in. I feel like I have to throw in Happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate it, or Merry Christmas.
Don't do that.
Or Happy Holidays if that's your sort of thing. Whatever.
You could just start saying Merry Winter, Merry Winter, or Happy Winter,
Happy cold season,
Happy No Leaves on the Tree season.
Right. Anyway. All right, let's get started with our questions. Open topic, open discussion. A few questions. So because normally when we do these things, we ask people for topics, and a lot of people don't. There's no guilt and shame here.
They're too shy. It's
the way it is. Yeah. So we came up with our own questions. But if you have any questions that you'd like us to talk about, or any topics you'd like us to discuss, please put it in the chat, and we'll do our best to handle that. But we'll try to say hello to anyone new that pops in the chat. But we're glad that everyone who's here is here. So thanks for stopping by. All right. So the first question for tonight is, aside from becoming a believer, what is one of the best things that's ever happened to you, and why? Aside from becoming a believer, what is one of the best things that's ever happened to you, and why? Let's ask Jen first on this one. It's one of the best things that ever happened.
So, aside from meeting Mr. Cripps here, because I've used that as an answer for many questions like this.
That was going to be my answer too.
I was going to say moving away from home.
Oh,
and it's a very convoluted reasoning, but I'll just say I had a really hard time cutting the apron strings with my parents. I don't know if any of you guys have had that issue, but moving away for my own mental health and just growing up and actually feeling like an adult in my adult body, it was really beneficial for me to move away. A lot of growth, a lot of good has come of it, and I'm very, very grateful. I know that's not the case with everybody that moves away from home, but that was for me. It's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was really because I had never moved away from home before. A lot of people do the college thing or they move in with roommates. I hadn't done that. I was still living at home when I got married the first time and just never had moved away.
Yeah.
And it just made me realize how important that is, I guess, for most people, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people to move into their own lives,
Yeah.
It's amazing the ties that families have, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good. So It's like, okay, moving along.
Yeah.
That'd be my answer.
Okay, yeah, I think a lot of people, when they leave home and they have roommates and things like that, and you didn't. You lived with your family and then moved in with your first husband, and then moved back in temporarily with them, and then moved here and stayed with my sister for a while
Yep.
till we got our place. And yeah, yeah. But I have to say, someone hearing that might think, "Oh, well, it's probably hard to live with because she's never had the practice with roommates and stuff." But that is not the case. You're really easy
Nope.
to live with.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories of people having roommates. So I
Oh
know
my
sometimes
gosh.
it's a crapshoot, or you have a really good friend and you move in with them and you think it's going to be all rainbows and
Yep.
butterflies, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're not getting along. What's happening? And then it ruins the friendships. Like, no.
Right.
Uh,
Also, people have their own little habits and idiosyncrasies, and,
mhm.
it just, if you're a person that is sensitive to that sort of thing and you want things to be a certain way, you have to realize that in a roommate situation, you don't always get things the way you want them because you're not the only person on the lease there. You have
Yep.
3 or 4 people on the lease, and each person has their own ways of doing things, and it can be interesting. But you're an easy person to live with, so that's good.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Oh,
You put
sure.
up with my clutter. I'm
Well,
always
listen.
leaving like piles of stuff everywhere.
Well, I
But at
hate.
least I clean it up. You don't clean up after me.
No, I don't. I don't. I don't feel any need to do that.
Yeah.
But my first wife was. You say you're cluttered, and maybe if you saw the way she lived, then maybe you would understand how why this is a blessing. What you call clutter
Ah, okay.
is not anywhere near clutter to me.
See, different perspectives.
It is different perspectives. Now,
Yeah.
that person, my ex did try harder when we moved in, when we were married. But when I used to visit her when we were dating, it was very difficult. Um, I'll just mention she had a cat and didn't very often clean up the litter box. So that was just
Oh.
one example
You
of
know,
things.
it's amazing to me how strong cat pee is.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
The
overpowering.
ammonia in it. It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, very distinctive. Anyway, Marisa, what do you think? Aside from becoming a believer, what is one of the best things that's ever happened to you, and why?
Having my children gave me a new
Oh,
lease on life.
tell us about
I was
that.
somebody who didn't look forward to having children. I was afraid of having children, and I just came up with every hem and haw and excuse about it. And when it was like I knew when it was time to have children, and I wasn't married at the time. I had already been through an unsuccessful attempt at marriage and a divorce and
Right.
all of that. And then while I was living in Ohio on my own, I met Jason's dad, my son Jason, and I just knew something in me. And my mother was still alive back then, and my mother knew I was pregnant just by talking on the phone to her. So it was really I thought that my mother had already fallen quite ill after a um, back surgery. She had worked through our registered nurse as an RN and worked rehab and really hurt her back and had a back fusion. And I just tell everybody, please don't get the fusion if you can
Right.
absolutely not do it.
Right.
If you
Exactly.
got to, you got to. I get it, but let it be a last resort, because time and time again, I have heard people have such a hard time with it, and for her, it was really the beginning of the end. After that was like a 15-year long slow death.
Oh, God.
The best I saw her was right after her surgery, when she still had the pain meds and the antibiotics and everything. It was like I had my mother back for a day or two, and then
Oh,
the decline. So yeah, I don't
yes,
recommend.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know, she worked hard. She helped a lot of people, and I think she was ready.
Yeah,
What more can you ask for? You know.
that's true. I think my brother got one of his vertebrae fused in his neck, but it's been causing him issues ever since. Like, oh man.
Who?
Mark, because
Oh, I didn't know
he had the bomb dogs. Like he was an MP in the Air Force, and
Yeah.
so he would do the what do they call them? The demonstrations. I don't even know how many times he did it, where he'd wear the padded suit and the dogs attack you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So getting like jerked around by your arm, and
Yeah.
those dogs are strong.
Sure.
I think it just really probably some other stuff, but that mainly I think kind of messed up his body.
Yeah.
So he's got some neck pain
That's
issues.
not good.
No.
I had a friend that was in the Army, airborne ranger, and he's did something like 5,000 jumps from planes, and they messed his knees up.
Oh,
I mean,
geez, I can
you
imagine.
do it a couple times, you land right, you're okay. But if you do it 5,000 times, I mean, it can really cause problems. Anyway, all right. So everyone answered except for me. So obviously there's the obvious answer, meeting Jen. So I'll just throw that out there. But I was thinking about this. One of the biggest things that happened was me waking up to truth. Um, 9/11, flat Earth was a big one. Lots of things surrounding that, and realizing that the world is not as it portrays itself. That's both scary, and it was one of the best things, because I would prefer to be awake and aware of what I'm living in, and what it actually is, rather than just ignorant bliss. Um, people say ignorance is bliss, and yeah, if you're ignorant, you don't know any better, it probably is bliss. But when you take a step back and look at things for the way they are, and this is still ongoing, because there more things come out and more truths come out, and it just has changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So other than meeting Jen, and of course, as it says in the question, becoming a believer, being awake, I prefer being awake to being asleep, personally, for me.
Yeah.
And the reason why, I think it's because I want to know the truth. I've always been a curious guy, even as a kid, asked a lot of questions, which I'm sure was irritating to others, but that's who I've always been. And I'm still asking questions, still seeking, and I'm glad that I'm like that. Well, it's the same thing with people. Why I feel like I'm um, good with people is because I really am interested to know what makes them tick and what their interests are and things like that. And well, it's the same with the world and music and everything. Just I'm interested in to know how things work. So that's my answer for that.
All right.
By the way, guys, if you want to answer any of these questions from your perspective, please do, and we'll read them in the chat. Truth says, I think it's important to realize, though, that those who don't believe in the correct gospel are condemned by. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. What is one of the hardest things you've done? What is one of the hardest things you've had to do or decided to walk through? What is one of the hardest things you've had to do or decided to walk through? And I'll go first, just to mix the order up. Now, I'm looking at it differently now, but one of the hardest things I've ever had to walk through was a divorce. I didn't want to get divorced. It's not something I wanted to experience. And it wasn't just the divorce itself. It was feeling abandoned, feeling betrayed, and things like that. That was really hard. It was hard to come back from that. Of course, all these years later, and I'm happily married, and it's way better. I can look back on that and see that it was a good thing, but it didn't feel like it at the time. So that's the first thing that popped into my head. Hardest things. I've had lots of hard things, but um, that was worse in some ways than when I got a DUI, and it took a year and 6 months to get my life back because of what I had chosen to do, and my license and work and money and alcohol classes, and that was hard. But getting a divorce or going through that, the pain of that was harder than that, even because it
Yeah.
dragged on longer. The DUI and that experience was a finite period of time. Supposed to last a year, but ended up the paperwork and bureaucracy ended up not being able to get my license back for an extra 6 months. So, but it broke me of doing that. So, ended up being a good thing too. I think sometimes hard things can be good. Bobby Meyer just popped in the chat. Hello,
Hey,
Bobby.
Bobby.
Good evening to you. All right. What do you think, Marisa? What is one of the hardest things you've had to do or decided to walk through?
One of the hardest things I've had to do.
Yeah.
Or decided to walk to. Yeah.
I'm going to answer my children again, because when, as much as it was a blessing and the best thing for me, it was the most challenging thing. And it really does change your life.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to choose my kids as my answer for this one too.
Awesome. Right. We were talking about that this morning, not that we are parents, but just talking about as far as we can understand it, with our imaginations, the responsibility, the weight of the responsibility of being a parent. Obviously there's positives and beautiful moments, thousands of them.
Sure.
I used to have dreams that I had a baby, and like even in the dream, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a huge deal!" Ah! That was just a dream. It's not even real life. Okay, I'll go next.
Yeah.
When this is something else we were talking about today, healing. Walking through your own healing and getting to a point where you recognize some of your own behaviors are connected to childhood trauma, and having to look at that and pull it apart and understand it and get some help and healing. That's really hard. I can see how some people decide not to do that.
Yeah.
Because it does have its very sticky, painful, depressing, moments. It's still very good to walk through it. Like, it's been very helpful for me.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, but it's really, really hard. Especially, I think in the beginning, some of you guys were around when we did some shows where I was obviously very pissed off at my parents. And I have luckily, gratefully, gotten past that point of being so incredibly angry, and am able to love my parents where they're at now and be grateful for them, but still hold space for being angry, being disappointed. And that's something else sometimes I'll flip on its head and think of how that's got to be hard for a parent, for a child to be walking through their own healing and being mad at them, for some of the ways they've chosen to do things. That's got to be very difficult for a parent too. It's kind of hard all around.
Sure.
But there's so many good things that come of it. Self-growth and maturity and freedom from certain things that have held you back for a really long time. So that's been a really, really hard thing, but I'm choosing to walk through it.
Yeah. And I think you're brave. Anybody that does that's brave. For me, I remember it's difficult to change. Like, even there's so many aspects that are difficult, but particularly in your family, if they're used to you being a certain way, if you've picked up a role that they want you to play, and through therapy or whatever a person chooses to do to work on this, you're changing your role And a lot of families don't like that. They want you to stay the same person that benefits them. And that is a hard thing. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes they just can't deal with that you're changing, that you're a different person. And some people have to go no contact as a result of that with their family. How hard is that?
Yeah.
And also, it can be a long process. And then when you feel some of the old patterns come up, you can think, I'm regressing, or you feel like you haven't really learned anything, haven't moved forward. It can feel like that. And that's hard too. There's a lot of aspects of it that I feel like are very difficult. But I just can't see any way around the fact that if you decide to walk through something hard like that, the benefits are going to far outweigh the difficulties.
Yeah.
In the end. So there's that.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult too. Part of my process was radical acceptance.
Yeah.
I think this might sound crazy to some, but maybe we all do. We just don't talk about it.
Right.
But I had sort of projected this sort of fantasy image onto my family. And I think it was sort of rooted in what I needed from my family.
Right.
And almost like imagining that we were closer than we were and some weird stuff. And I had to really swallow a reality pill with just where everybody is, and that I just needed to see people as they were. And I don't think it was fair to them what I was doing. I mean, I don't know if they knew, it's more of an internal thing. But yeah, just that radical acceptance of, people are who they are, and they show love the way they do, and it's not the way I do, and that's okay. Like they're not doing something to me on purpose or to hurt me.
Right.
It's just, we're different people. And it's even like, sometimes I wonder if it's based in this idea of like, since we're family, quote unquote, and we share blood, that we're all the same somehow, which is ridiculous.
Right.
You could have twin, even identical twins, and their personalities could be different.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was really a difficult pill to swallow too, but it's been very healthy, very good in a lot of ways, but it was painful.
Yeah.
My goodness.
All right.
Glad to be on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Being that it was not fun. I was like, what the heck's happening?
Yeah. A lot of it's not very fun, but
no, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. So everyone answered that one, I think. Yep. All right. Next one. What is one of the most impactful things in childhood that you have experienced, and why? Can be good or bad. Impactful things in childhood. Marisa, why don't you go first on this one?
Wow. I had a lot of things impact me powerfully as a child, and I really can't, pick one over the other. I mean, well, first of all, I always enjoyed learning about Jesus. That part of going to church, I didn't mind.
Right.
And so learning about Jesus impacted me absolutely. But other things that impacted me was the survival skill, learning about gardening and taking care of animals and, plants and flowers and, just taking care of the outdoors. And, I still, even now, even living in an apartment, I've got to grow something. I've got to have flowers. I've got to have herbs. Something I can't just not grow. So I'd say that's pretty big of an impact. Still do that even if you're living apartment life where they don't let you plant the ground. So.
Yeah. They were even against hanging plants in our last apartment. We're like, what the heck? What do you mean? No hanging plants? Maybe they're afraid about the walls. I think that's great that you learned how to garden and till the earth. And there's something so wonderful about that, the smell of soil and helping things grow.
I have to do it, and I love it. It really is a relaxing way to spend time, a productive way to spend time. and therapeutic. I've really found a lot of benefit caring for plants in that way.
Excellent. Jen?
I'm gonna give a shout out to my art teachers. I had people along my childhood growing up that noticed that I loved art and painting and drawing, and they really helped encourage me. And I didn't have a lot of that from my parents.
Yeah.
And so it was very impactful, um, feeling seen and having a connection through creativity.
Yeah, sure.
It was really wonderful. Like I just love I remember all my art teachers, even in college, and they just were all very different and very eccentric, and it just was wonderful. And it
Yeah.
really left a wonderful impression on me,
Oh, all right.
creative wise.
I have a couple things.
Yeah, share.
One of the biggest things was going to a private Christian school for most of my life, except for my senior year in high school, and except for kindergarten and first grade. So those 3 school years, I went to a public school, and the rest of the time was all at a private Christian school, and I'm grateful for that. I'm in a different place with organized Christianity, but I am grateful for all the Bible verses I memorized, and grateful for all the church services I attended. I would rather know what it is that I'm believing and understand it rather than just, come in at the last hour. And so it sounds kind of convoluted, but here it is. I'm breaking away from the abusive, toxic parts of the very thing that I'm saying was impactful. But that doesn't mean, like a lot of people who do this, who quote unquote deconstruct, it seems like they throw everything out. And I'm not doing that at all. More power to you. Whatever you feel like you need to do, your journey's your journey. It's not mine. But I'm not throwing everything out. There were some things that I learned that have been impactful, continue to be impactful, and made me who I am today. And it's extremely important. So I look at that as a good thing, not a bad thing. And the particular school that I went to had good teachers that seemed to really care about the students, and that matters. The only downside was they believed in paddling and corporal punishment, and I didn't like that aspect of it. But yeah, I just have fond memories of that. Yeah, so I'm gonna choose that one.
All right. Thanks for sharing, babe.
Sure. Let's see. I forgot who went and who didn't.
I think we all did, didn't you, Gomez?
We all did.
I think we all did, yeah.
Okay, good. Bobby says, when some guy tried to grab me at a bus stop, I screamed my head off all the way home. I got back and told my mom what happened. She said, "Why didn't you yell for me?" I knew then I was on my own. Wow, Bobby.
Aww.
That's horrible. I'm sorry that it felt like you didn't have a whole lot of support. That's a horrible thing to go through. It's horrific. Wow.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
I looked at something. Christ is the Truth said, Nez, do you have birds?
I muted the TV. It was playing cat TV. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Kind of cute.
No, I thought you had birds. I was like, oh, it's so pretty.
Yeah. No, it was cute.
Yeah, I liked it.
I heard it in the background. I was like, well, Glenn's not here, because sometimes
yeah, it's some of the
during
birds
the day
outside
where he is, and he'll go outside and you can hear stuff. Bubba News says, I'm grateful for the paddling back in the day. Kept me out of prison, I'm sure. Yeah, to each his own, Bubba. To each his own. I mean, if you feel like it kept you from prison, that's great. I'm glad it did. I feel a little differently about that. I don't feel like I was ever headed toward prison, but and sometimes I got paddled for ridiculous things. And that's not just my opinion. I'm looking back at it now. Um, I'll just tell a quick story. So one time, my mom was coming to pick me up for a doctor's appointment, and everyone knew about it. And she was coming to pick me up at 3 o'clock, and I went outside to wait for her and left. Went to the doctor, came back the next day, and they said that I left without permission, and they paddled me, even though I turned the note in. They knew that I was leaving at 3. So that's an example. That's one example.
They spanked you?
Yeah, with a big piece of wood.
Oh my gosh.
Said Board of Education and has his and her sized on it, etched into the wood.
Well, that's a little cliche.
I think it is.
Oh my gosh. Wait, what grade were you in?
6th.
Gosh.
6th grade.
That's not good.
I mean, sometimes I got paddled for doing stuff, that I actually
shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah, but that's one. I was actually angry about that for a long time, that they paddled me for that when I'd gotten permission. They had a signed note from my mother to leave early.
Yeah.
And the catch-22 was that I didn't notify them again when I was actually walking out of the school. So that was their reasoning.
All right, I'm going to do something I saw on another channel that I kind of liked.
Okay.
So everybody in the chat, and we can do this too. So put a 1 in the chat. Okay, so if you got spanked as a kid, do you think it helped you, or do you think it was more harmful? Helped would be number 1, and harmful would be number 2. So do you feel like it was more helpful or harmful? I'm going to say 2. I'm putting my 2 in the chat.
Okay.
Bubba News says
there
1.
It is. There it is. 2. We got 2 2s and a 1. Anyone else want to weigh in? Please do. Oh,
Christ, the 2 said
1.
Okay.
It feels like it was beneficial. Okay.
I think I think in some ways, my dad's anger and the spanking probably helped with us not getting into more trouble than we got into, which would make sense. My little brother, Steve, the youngest, he got in quite a bit more trouble than the 3 of us older kids did. And maybe my parents sort of weaned off of spanking,
Yeah.
but it does affect your psyche. I mean, there's data out there that it does affect you.
Well,
no, it's kind of a taboo topic.
Is it taboo?
Well, when I've done research on like videos and articles and seeing people's comments, it does seem to be split down the middle, because you hear a lot of people these days with a lot of kids growing up in the generations that are hitting teendom right now and like, younger adulthood. There seems to be a lot of consensus that spanking, kind of went by the wayside because kids were reporting their parents to CPS and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think parents started getting more afraid of spanking their kids, but then and I don't know the data, like the actual, truth of the data.
Yeah.
Of if that's because spanking has gone by the wayside or if it's something else, like if it's social media or other things. But then you have other people that are walking through their healing from their childhoods that are saying, spanking really screwed me up.
Yeah.
And maybe that depends on how spanking was used. Like I know some people, the spanking has been very violent. It's not just like a smack on the butt. It's, half an hour in mom's bedroom with your pants pulled down and your dad wailing on your butt with a leather belt. Yeah. I mean, so there's different, you could say it's all spanking, but some of it could actually be abuse.
Yeah.
So
I would agree.
It's interesting.
Well,
John Don says 1.
Yeah, so it's split right down the middle in here too. So
yeah,
with 3 2s and 3 1s. So
it's a tie. Oh man! Oh my gosh! Bobby said she got beat with a waffle bat. Oh my gosh! Yeah, that sounds very harmful.
Yeah.
And what's considered beating? Like, is the line drawn at like anything past 3 spanks? Is that considered?
Oh, I definitely had more than 3.
Yeah, I did
Oh
too.
my gosh, I got walloped sometimes.
My
And
mom broke a spoon once.
I got it from both sides. So I had it at school and I had it at home. Sometimes
Oh, no.
I would get spanked at school and then at home.
Oh, gosh.
So,
You're like, my butt's still sore.
yeah, truth said I would never do it though, just a different culture and generation. That's exactly what I was thinking when I don't know how old you are, Truth, but when I grew up, that was pretty standard back then. I mean, there were people that talked out against it, but especially in Christian schools because they take scripture and twist it. In my opinion, um, they take verses out of context and think that means that they have the right to spank someone else's children without letting them know. I mean, if my kid went to a private Christian school and they did something wrong, I would want to be in charge of the punishment because I would be afraid that they weren't going to do it correctly. Because to me, if you're going to punish someone, it's corrective punishment, not punitive. It's not punishment just for the sake of punishment's sake. And I feel like sometimes it was at school, at least it was punitive, and sometimes it was punitive at home. But my parents always tried to hug me after, and the punishment was over with. Once I got paid the price, it was done. My butt might be stinging for a little while after it was quote unquote done, but at least there wasn't more punishment. I didn't get paddled and grounded. Usually, it was one or the other. Yeah, so it's a different time. It's totally not acceptable now. I'm sure there are still schools that do it, but I don't think it's as widespread as it was when I was a kid, for sure. The different culture and generation, for sure.
Yeah.
Bubba News says I'm old school, but after my late wife passed, scrolled up on me. After my late wife passed and my girls were 4 and 6, the spanking stopped. Whole new world we had to go through. Yeah, I can imagine. That's tough stuff. Bobby said my mom once pulled my hair until I admitted to doing something I didn't do, and eventually lied and told her I did just so she would stop pulling my hair. Memories. Yeah, those aren't super good memories, as I'm sure you know. You're the one that experienced it, but I'm sorry that happened. That pulling your hair.
I've heard that in a lot of stories. You know, you hear of people under duress being tortured and they end up admitting to something that they didn't do just so it stops.
Wow.
I mean, I went through that with my ex, not physically, but in arguments. You know, he would beat a dead horse and I would apologize and apologize. And it wasn't until he got a specific answer from me that he would stop.
Yeah.
And that's like water torture when someone's yelling at you and arguing with the same point over and over to where you think you're going to go crazy.
Right.
And you would do anything for it to stop.
Sure.
It's like, good grief.
Well, that's what they say about torture. You can get anyone to admit anything. It may not be that they actually did it. Most people will admit to anything to get the torture to stop.
Yeah.
So it's not super effective.
Nope.
Truth says, oh, yeah, there was no grounding in my childhood. That would be too Western for my parents. LOL. So that tells me you're from the East, or your parents were maybe from, I don't want to assume. It could be from North or South, but generally when someone says West, they mean this part of the world. So that gives me the inclination that they were from a different part of the world, which we all were at one point, for sure. Yeah, thanks guys for answering some of the questions in the chat. Bubba News says, Starling Swallow, Dad had such a big heart that he would cry when he had to spank me. Mom grew up on a farm. She wore the pants in the family. Oh, wow. Well, that's good to have a dad that doesn't want to just spank you to be spanking you. I mean, is emotional about it. That sounds like he cared, at least to me. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Next one. What was one of the kindest things a friend or someone else has done for you? What was one of the kindest things a friend or someone else has done for you? And I'll go first. One of the things that moved me the most, and maybe there's something I have forgotten, but a couple of years ago, I think it was back in 2002. No, 2012. I had been taking care of my dad, who he hurt his back, broke his back in a car accident. I'd been taking care of him, and it was around Christmas time, and I wanted to go visit my grandparents in Gladwin. You know, the house that I keep telling everyone my uncle sold. That one, you know, our family home in Gladwin, Michigan. And I couldn't afford to go because I had quit I didn't quit. They fired me because I asked for time off to take care of my dad because he really needed it. And Shannon was super, super busy with 4 children and running a private Christian school. And here it was, again, a situation I found myself in at that time, unmarried. And, but I didn't have work while I was taking care of my dad. And I wanted to go to Michigan, but I couldn't afford it. And I didn't have a car. I had to sell my car to pay bills. I had a Jeep and I had to sell it. It was financially a very difficult time for me. And my sister and brother-in-law, they let me use their dad's car. And
Kyle's dad's car?
Kyle's dad's car, yeah. And gave me some money for gas and food and stuff. They basically, my Christmas present that year was to be able to go visit my grandparents in Michigan. Now,
Aww.
Yeah, this is one of the things that means the most to me. And this is why when you hear me talk about it, I'm bitter or upset, probably more upset than bitter that they sold that house out from under us. Because it was the most meaningful place that I've ever known on the face of the earth. And it will always be that way, even though it doesn't belong to us anymore. I mean, I'm not going to go, pull up in the driveway.
I am. Oh, okay. No. Walk inside, maybe not. Maybe pull up the driveway.
No, you pull in the driveway for sure, but I'm not going to because they always left the door unlocked. So when we'd come for a visit, they knew we were coming. So we would just pull in the driveway and walk in. Don't knock on
the back door, that screen door.
That screen door, yep. That has a very distinctive wooden clang when you let it go. It's on a spring, so you open it up and go. I
love that sound.
Shut. Yeah, me too. So the point is, it was an important. I'm pouring my heart out here, babe.
Sorry, I was laughing at Nez. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Now you got me. I like the noise, the sound effect. That's all. Continue. Never mind me.
Oh, she was trying to do the sound effect of the screen door. Got it.
Yeah. Anyway, so it meant a lot to me. So the fact that they did that, I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for help or anything. I didn't ask for that to be a gift. And it was just total surprise. I walked out in the driveway. They said my sisters had come outside and they had it all gassed up and washed and ready to go and said, "That's for you to go to Michigan." And it was one of the last times. There was one other time that I got to visit them before they died. My grandpa died in 2016 and my grandma died in 2018 after my mom. So when my mom died unexpectedly in 2017, my grandma died that next year. So it's very memorable. I think it's one of the kindest things that anyone ever has done. I'm sure there are other things, but that's the first thing that popped into my head. Marisa, what about you? What is one of the kindest things a friend or someone else has done for you?
Well, Bobby's right here in the chat. she's been my best friend for over 40 years. And when my marriage fell apart, she was there for me and took me in. So
Aw.
that's one of the many wonderful things that she's done for me.
Oh, Bobby, we love you for that.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yep. It's wonderful. What about you, Jen?
Oh, I think I went, right?
Oh, did you go first?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, what was the question?
The kindest things a friend or someone else has done for you.
Oh, yeah, when you guys were, I hadn't gone yet. I was thinking about this. One thing I was going to say is my family friend Carla.
Oh, yeah.
She's been sort of a surrogate mom in some ways. Like when Crips came on the scene and my family was none too pleased, she was very supportive. And when I moved here, she was very supportive. And she's been very supportive of my art and writing in ways that I had always hoped my parents would be, but weren't. And she's just very encouraging and uplifting. And she's even had me do artwork for some of her friends. And
Mhm.
she's just been wonderful. And it has touched me in a way that is, I think, even more so because I didn't have, certain support and encouragement as a younger person and even an adult, you know. She means a lot to me. And we actually went to see her while we were in Williamsburg, and she's gotten so old. It's so sad. But she's still her sweet self.
She's still her sweet self,
Super,
and
super
I would
sweet.
agree with you that the health issues that she's had made a huge difference from when I first saw her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love her for that. What you're describing, how she's been there for you. It's you have a couple people that have been there for you like that. Susan Thurman or Susan Hughes
Yeah, Susan Hughes.
as well.
Yeah.
So there's
Carla, yeah.
Carla.
Good.
No, go ahead.
I just was going to say it's funny. Sometimes when her and I will talk, I'll remind her when I was younger and we became friends with her family. She was very tall and like not I don't want to say a big woman, not big as in her weight or anything, but just her stature. And she, I don't know how to describe her when she was younger. She was just very authoritative when we first met her, and so I didn't had yet to see her softer side.
Right.
So I was really intimidated by her. She kind of scared me when I
Really?
was younger. Yeah. And so
Oh,
we talk about it now and laugh about it. But she, she's shared stuff with me about her past and her own traumas growing up. And she just one time she even told me, she was like, that you're the strongest person in your family, right? And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
yeah. You get him, Carla.
I was like, she obviously saw something I didn't. I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, she's just been very special. I'm very grateful for her friendship.
Wow. I love it. Excellent.
It's nothing like a good friend.
I know, right? Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Marisa, what about you? What was one of the wait, I think you went first. Never mind. My fault. The kindest things a friend or someone else has done for you. Next one is what was one of the kindest things you've done for a friend or someone else? You want to go first, Jen? What was one of the kindest things you feel like you've done for a friend or someone else?
Oh, gosh.
I can go first.
Yeah, go first. I got to think.
Yeah. So this one, I've talked about this before, but when I was going through my divorce and I had been out of the house for a while and our lease ended, originally we were going to try to make it through the lease. But then we made an agreement that if one of us couldn't handle it or it wasn't working out, then they could give 2 weeks notice and the other person would have to leave. Of course, the other person was me, would have to leave. And that was when my wife had asked me if it was okay with me if she could date other people while I was still living there. And I said, absolutely not. I mean, we're still married and I know you're leaving, in the process of leaving. I mean, in retrospect, I just should have left the moment that she said that she wanted, that God was trying to tell her that she should get separated. Should have just left then. But that's not the answer to the question. So when the lease was up, I had been moved back in with my parents as a 48-year-old. No, not 48. It was 38, 38, 39, somewhere in there. And it was time. I had some stuff that I hadn't moved out. And so I went over there for the purpose of getting my stuff out. And my ex-wife was horrible at packing and moving and organizing and things like that. I've told the story before when we were still dating, and she had lived in Asheville, and I went and rented a truck to move her back to this area, and got there, and she didn't have a single box packed. So that was interesting. But what I did was I got all my stuff together, and then I felt bad for her, so I helped her pack up her stuff. And I've told this story a few times, and my friends were all like, "What the hell did you do that for? Why are you trying to help her?" And honestly, the reason I did it is because, as I have said many times, it's not about what someone else has done to you. It's about what kind of person you are. That's really something I stand by and believe. And I did it because I felt like it was the right thing for me to do. I didn't do it to try to get her back or to make her feel good about me or anything like that. It was just an altruistic thing. And so I spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours of my time with my ex-wife in our old apartment, helping her get her stuff ready to move. I didn't help her move. I just just packing boxes and stuff. That's the one that came up. That's all. What about you, Jen? Something kind you've done for someone else.
I had a friend who was going through a really tumultuous divorce from her abusive ex, and she had moved to Colorado, was trying to get on her feet, and she was a stay-at-home mom for years. And as many people know, that's hard when you're transitioning from being a stay-at-home parent to trying to find a job again, and your resume's like blank pages.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
And she had confided in me she was very embarrassed to admit it, but she had been dumpster diving to try to eat because things were just so bad. And I sent her some money. I just bawled. I couldn't believe, I didn't know things had gotten that bad, you know?
Yeah.
And she had her kids with her, and I didn't ask at the time. I don't know if she was buying food for the kids and she was dumpster diving, or they all were. I don't know, but that was very upsetting and to hear. And I was grateful I was in the financial place to be able to send her some money.
Sure.
But that's one of the ones that popped up to the top of my brain.
Yeah. Well, that is kind.
I
think
I've
you
never
probably
been in that
have.
position.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad.
I just can't imagine.
I think you've done a lot of things like that. You sent me some money early on once.
I remember that.
Helped me with some money. I don't remember what for, but I needed it for some reason. And, because I would decide to take care of my grandma and thought my family would be there for me. And then when my money ran out, that my mom left, because I wasn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes new friends and strangers are more kind and helpful than your own family, unfortunately. Sometimes. Marisa, what about you? What was one of the kindest things you've done for a friend or someone else?
Well, I do not like talking about myself.
I know.
In that way.
Yeah.
I know you don't.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, Nez.
What I will say is that, and we'll turn this into a praise report.
Okay. Ooh, good.
is the relationship that had been quite dysfunctional and abusive at one point with both uh, fathers of my children. By the grace of God, both of those relationships, after not living with those men anymore and establishing my own life, my own place, shared parenting, and just moving on, in time, I'm giving God the credit for making those men calm down and grow up enough to be helpful to me and to our children instead of being stuck in a toxic, negative place where I wouldn't even want them around
Right.
Yeah.
their fathers.
That's
So
huge.
so thank you, Jesus, that both of those daddies stepped up, got their heads out of their butt, got their counseling, got their help, got whatever it was they needed. Got a job, got this, got that, and got to a place where they were able to be a dad that I didn't have to worry about my children being with their fathers. And to be a help to the children, to be a help to me, that's nothing more I can explain but a miracle by the hand of God. There's many times people, these stories don't end up so well.
Right.
Yeah.
People end up in prison, people end up in the hospital, people end up dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thank God that those situations didn't go that way.
Yeah.
And,
That's
people will
huge.
talk about anything and people will criticize anything and anyone, especially the less they have to do with something and the less they know about it. The more they got to say about it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've taken my share of flack and gossip and chat from people who have their opinions. And, they didn't live my life. They didn't go through what I went through.
No, they
And I
didn't.
see this as a miracle on with both fathers. And it's just the way it is. I got the help I needed. My kids got the help I needed. And thank God the baby's daddies got the help they needed.
Yeah.
So things are much better. I never had to press charges for anything. I never pursued child support. It meant more to me that those men get the help they need to do right by themselves, their children, and baby mama. Because
Yep.
I'm part of the equation too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I was never going to play nice if they were going to be horrible.
Yeah.
Nothing but. They would have not gone the way it went.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it did go the way it went. It was a hard road to get there, but
Yeah.
I think the best thing for me was to not be a total hard ass and come at things from a reactionary or over hyper vigilant paranoid or looking out for the kids,
Yeah.
looking at the kids. I don't apologize for that, but I'm glad I didn't have to push things any farther. And
Yeah.
I think it's been uh, especially when it comes to like the issue of child support, I think that was something good I could do to say no thank you. I would rather you grow up and help me with our child than me get a small percentage of what you get every month. The hands-on help meant more, and it still means more.
That's a
So,
really big deal. That's
so
a
it was
great
a big
point
deal
too,
to me.
Nez.
May not be for everybody. I get everybody's situation different,
Yeah.
but I'm glad I could do this and not push the issue when it came to that certain issue.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would probably be it.
That's a huge praise report.
Yeah. That was good.
Actually, I'm going to read y'all a short story that sort of aligns with what you just shared, Nez. Do you guys mind?
No.
It's very short.
Go ahead.
All right. So this is like an anonymous poster that shared this. But it says, my daughter has not seen her biological dad since she was 4. She's 11 now. When she was 2, he contacted me and asked if I would allow him to terminate his parental rights so he could stop paying child support, and I agreed. I wanted to spare her the heartache of a revolving door father, and the sacrifice of the financial support was well worth him never being able to disappoint her. I never lied to her about where he went or who her dad was. I've always answered her questions in the most age-appropriate way possible. When she was 4, he contacted me and told me he has been diagnosed with cancer and would like to see her. I set aside a day and we met in the park. He had asked for 2 hours. He stayed for 20 minutes and we never heard from him again. Over the summer, we ran into somebody that knows him and they commented on how she looks like his other children. They elaborated that he has settled down and has a family now. My stomach tied itself in knots thinking of how hurtful that must be to my daughter. I cut the conversation short and we got in the car to leave, and that's when I saw her smiling. She said, Mom, he figured out how to be a dad. That's such a nice thing. I'm happy for his kids.
Aww.
And that's the day an 11-year-old taught me all I needed to know about forgiveness.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was really good. That's poignant.
It's amazing somehow kids, it's amazing to me how kids can sometimes see things so much clearer than us adults. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't even think of looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah. They have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Hello to our friend Brenda Z, who's in the chat. Hi, Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
There you go. Welcome. All right. Next one. Tell us about a time when you were betrayed. What did you learn from that and how did it feel? Jen, you want to go first on this one? I've got a couple.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could go first, let me pick one.
Okay. The first real time, I mean, there were times, like I remember Michael Honeycutt. I had a crush on this girl that was in the cubicle next to me in school, and I made the mistake of telling him that I had a crush on her, and then so he walked up to her and asked her to be his girlfriend after I told her that I liked her. So that was a betrayal. But that was a small betrayal, but that prepared me somewhat for what would come later. And I've talked about this before, but I had a friend, I use that term loosely. His name was Chuck. And Chuck was a troublemaker. And I had gotten tired of his antics. And I decided that being a friend with him was too costly. And I said, this isn't working for me. So I was attempting to walk away, and he cried and begged me to continue to be his friend. And I just, that'd be the first time that I've ever dealt with anything like that. And of course, back then you didn't know about narcissism as much, and gaslighting and
manipulation
and all that stuff. And so I said, okay, dude, okay, well, I'll still be your friend, but there needs to be some changes, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then he set up a situation where I was going door to door all day long in the heat of summer to get jobs for him for his business. And after walking around all day in the hot sun and not making very many sales, before I did that, I'd asked him to check on the prices that people were paying for garbage pickup. And he said that he did. And I found out that he didn't do that, and that I was trying to charge $2 more for a small business to come and take over their trash service when they had a huge company, Waste Management, that was doing it And I was very angry. And so I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So he decided to write me off as a friend. Um, quit taking my calls and all of that. And I am grateful. I'm actually grateful now, but it made me feel really bad. I felt like it was all done, where he begged me to continue to be his friend just for the purpose of being able to walk away from me when it was right for him. And I understand all the dynamics of it now, and I can see it clearly from a different perspective as an adult who has learned a lot. But back then, as a young man, I just didn't understand how there were some people out there that seemed to do something I couldn't do, just like turning off a switch. 1 minute you're someone's friend, the next minute you're just like they're dead to you, and that's the way it felt. It felt like abandonment. It felt like betrayal, because I'd put a lot of time and energy and had almost walked away. I wish I had walked away. I should have just stuck with my original gut feeling. But at that time, I didn't really know how to go with my gut and follow through. And then the second one is obviously the divorce. Felt like I was a good husband, and I was there
Yeah.
for her through all her struggles. And then she just decided to
Walk out.
And that was a betrayal. And I felt sad and probably angry as well. It doesn't feel good when someone betrays you. It just doesn't. I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah, I've had a couple times. Those are the biggest two: friendship and a marriage. Obviously the marriage was a bigger deal, but
Yeah.
again, hindsight's always 2020, and I am super grateful. I feel like she actually did me a favor, because I never would have left. I'm very loyal. Well, I shouldn't say never. I probably would have stayed a lot longer and tried to make it work if she had told me there was problems first, instead of just saying God's telling me to separate. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Betrayal sucks.
What about you, Jen? Or
I have so many. It's hard to pick. Like, oh no. I was not a good friend picker back in the day, but I'm actually going to share. Well, I guess some of these were friends. I had a year, I want to say it was in 2016, where there was like multiple betrayals, one after the other in the course of like 3 months. And it was so much. I'm really grateful, as painful as it was. I was so grateful because God really put me through the forgiveness ringer.
Yeah.
From this experience. It was like he really taught me a lot about forgiveness and about, sometimes when we're betrayed or we're angry because of a betrayal, we just sit and stew in it.
Yeah.
This is what I should have said, or this is what I should have done, or, this, that, and the other. And you just stay on this hamster wheel of these thoughts that just want to drive you crazy. And God helped me see that praying for them really broke that cycle. But I had a friend of ours who had an auction house when we had an antique store, and we had sent a ton of stuff to this guy. And because he was a friend, he took inventory of the stuff that we brought in, but didn't write it down. And my ex was like, "Oh, he's a friend, he's a professional, like he'll remember what's ours and what's here and all that stuff." Because what they were doing is they were inventorying things as they sold it. So there was a couple of antique rifles that he said he never got, but we were both there when we dropped everything off. And they were very expensive, like antique rifles. And then we had a trailer full of stuff, two of which were these like solid brass front post office units, like the old ones that have the glass and like the brass eagles on the front.
Sure.
And we told him we wanted everything in the trailer sold separately before the trailer was sold. And he ended up selling the trailer with the contents. So when you do it that way, you get less money.
Yeah.
And then, so that happened. that blew up, that friendship, and just, messed up with trust. And then we had an employee that was a good friend of ours, so we thought, but we went out of town a lot on the weekends to go on these picking trips. And she would watch our house because our apartment was above the store. It was like a 1902 brick building, one of those like long, narrow ones. So she would take care of our cats and also run the store while we were gone. But when we got back, something was off. And there was a couple things that happened. Like she tried to sell something for half price, told the guy that if he paid cash, she could give him more off. It was just very weird. And I was going through our receipts, and there was receipts missing. And it ended up that she was stealing money from us, like stealing cash.
Yeah.
And it just, I have never felt so sick in my life.
Yeah.
I just was so in grief over that she would do that to us. And she worked for us for a couple of years. So we had to change the locks and fire her. And so that was devastating. We had a couple other things happen after that. I'm not going to go into it, but it was a couple other customers, some things went awry, and just was one thing after another. But it just was a crap storm of grief. I just expect better of people, and I'm like, what is happening? But then going through the ringer with it, and really praying for these people, because I was so devastated and just mad that people chose to do these things, and I just couldn't believe it. So yeah, just learning a lot about forgiveness. So some good came out of it, but it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
I tend to be more on the naive side and want to see good in people.
Sure.
And want to be trusting and all that stuff. So it was really rough.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, that is rough.
Yeah.
And people are interesting.
Yeah. We're complex beings.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry that happened. That's
me too. But I've learned from each one of those things, learned more about the world, more about people, more about God, more about myself. It's been beneficial in the long run, but man, it was not fun going through it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because you're a caring person, so
yeah.
To think that someone that you put your trust in would do that to you, that's hard to take for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Marisa, what about you?
Oh boy. I don't know which one to pick either, because there's just been moments in my life that were just epic, and not in a good way when it comes to being betrayed. I'll go back in time just a little bit, and I often refer to my YouTube experience, and I'll go back there again. And and I think a lot of people, when they're new to YouTube, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're in for. You don't know who all is lurking out there to be opportunistic and prey upon you. Just like in anywhere else, YouTube isn't any different. But it's just my coming onto YouTube for the first time and not knowing anybody, not knowing anything, getting involved with the wrong group of people right away, when they think you're low-hanging fruit and easy pickings. So a big dose of betrayal came from that experience. The people that I thought were friends indeed were not, and they were quite the opposite. And it was an ordeal, and I didn't know much about narcissism at the time either, but I certainly went through the love bombing, the devaluing, and the discard, as well as the smear campaign, and all of the things that go with narcissistic abuse, just from my experiences on YouTube. So I've been there, where you think you know somebody, where you think you can trust them, and you learn the hard way that you can't just do that so easily.
Yeah.
And that was hard for me, because I grew up, you know, just being me, and you expect other people just to be themselves too. I guess genuine is the
Yeah.
word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Authentic.
And there's a lot of disingenuous people out there, especially here on the tubes. But
Yeah.
I got through it. God got me through it. Got a much better, not just my old friends like Bobby who stood by me even though I had a party back in high school that I betrayed her and didn't invite her
Oh,
to.
that was you?
That was
Oh,
me.
no.
Guilty.
I was like, why are you
Sorry.
apologizing?
I
No.
apologize, Bobby.
Oh,
I know.
no.
I know, Bobby. I know. I know. Yes, Bobby told me. Bobby told me. But I learned we don't go through these things for no reason or just because,
No.
you know, God wants to laugh at us as we fall down. We're there to call on Him to pick us up when we do fall down and to help us get through what comes. And indeed, He
Yeah.
did. So even these betrayals are tests. They
Yes.
help us
Lessons.
grow. They are lessons, absolutely. So there you go.
Isn't that funny how we it's like things keep happening and there's sort of like this underlying pattern to it. And then one day God finally gets your attention and helps you see the pattern. And a lot of times it's stuff that we're doing or not doing when it comes to recognizing, red flags or different kinds of people, that we, for whatever reason, are attracted to, whether it was something from childhood or
Right.
whatever, and then you're like, oh, okay. Okay. I get it. I got it.
Exactly. It's not so much. I mean, it is about learning to spot red flags and see and recognize and deal with toxic people. Certainly. But the lesson, and it took me a long time to learn, is that I need to watch out for these things. This is a lesson not just that there's bad people out there, but I can be more careful. I can
Yeah.
not have my heart out there so easily to grab on my
Yes.
sleeve. I can be wiser, make better choices, do more research. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So even those hard lessons were worth it, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Nez.
All right. Next one. What would a perfect world look like to you and why? What would a perfect world look like to you and why? I'll go first. This is a good one.
Don't steal my answer.
I was I don't know what your answer is going to be, but
I know.
Jen and I were talking about this today, and we talk about it frequently. I think the perfect world would be if it was the same world that we're in. We're not talking about the afterlife or the way things are going to be, so I'm not going to do that. A life where you're able to have reasonable rent and reasonable income tax and a good paying job so that the job is not working just to pay bills and live, where you're able to travel. I mean, I think some of these other countries, at least according to Glenn, he shared with me like what it's like to live in Australia, and that if you have a corporate job, you have PTO, a good amount of PTO and sick days and things like that, which I think is fair, and mental health days, and they do it way different in the rest of the world, other than in the United States where it's stringent. The rules are worse. I would also say if people were the best versions of themselves, that's obviously not going to happen. But that in my mind, people were introspective and they actually looked at themselves and tried to change things that they didn't like or that weren't
Healthy.
authentic and healthy and authentic. Yeah. And if the people in leadership were good people instead of just out for their own selves, and they really cared about the public, that would be helpful. Yeah, those are just a few things. I think that it would be a lot better. Perfect world would be where people cared about others, and they worked on themselves. Everyone worked on themselves, and people were loving and kind and considerate, and the taxes and jobs were better paying, more commiserate with
Cost of living.
right, exactly, the cost of living. Right, Jen, because the cost of living is higher than the amount. I mean, here's the reality. The job I have, I mean, it's decent wage, technically, but because rent and electric and cable and groceries and all that, gas are all so high, I could not live by myself. I wouldn't be able to make it without Jen's income. And that's not right. A person should be able to live on their own. Um, and, you'd say, well, you can get a one bedroom. Well, no, the one bedrooms are cheaper than a three bedroom or a two bedroom, but I still couldn't make it. I basically would be working, and my monthly rate would be enough probably for rent on a one bedroom and maybe a little bit left over, so I would have gas to go back and forth to work. It's just messed up, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people know that, and a lot of other people struggle. I know it's not just me, but it's not a perfect world at all, and
No.
that's only just one aspect of it. I did mention a couple other aspects where people were, introspective. They looked at themselves and tried to be better people. I think if everyone did that, it'd be a better place.
Yeah.
That's mine. Marisa, how about you go next on this one? What would a perfect world look like to you? And I'm not trying to tell you how to answer, but this world and not like the afterlife. I don't know. Jen didn't put that in there, but
The perfect world as God created it, untainted by the devil and his minions. But we'll be getting a new heaven and new earth again eventually at some point. That's what the perfect world will be. But kind of like what you were saying, if we could perpetuate and live and be sustainable, realistically speaking, in an economy that was realistically sustainable,
right,
with a cost of living that was realistic,
right,
and pay that was commensurate with the work and being done. Everything that has been set up to make people fall and
yeah,
fail on purpose to keep debt slaves in their place
yep,
Yeah.
would not exist. People would genuinely be doing what they have the gifts and talents to do,
yes,
whatever that is,
yep,
and people would have their needs met, whatever they are.
yeah,
I'm not saying communism, but we all need a decent place to live. We all need food. We all have basic needs that shouldn't be breaking anybody's bank or making people get 3 jobs just to have.
right, exactly,
That's not working to live in a fair world.
right,
That's slavery, is
yep,
what that is.
it is.
It's tyranny. It's tyranny.
It is. Absolutely. I agree 100%. Thank you, Marisa. Jen,
Yep.
what about you? What would a perfect world look like to you and why?
I think the perfect world would be where love rules. I think if love were just the ruling factor,
Yeah.
all of this other stuff would just fall away.
Yeah.
People would get paid what they're worth. People would help people out. People would work on themselves and, to the betterment of themselves and the people around them. People would help each other, all kinds of things. I think, I think of like the picture of the champagne glasses,
Yeah.
when you pour it at the top and it trickles down into all the other glasses.
Yeah. There you go.
I think of love ruled, which is God. God is love.
Yeah.
I just think it would be such a better place.
Oh, I agree.
It's my short answer.
No, that's good. Short's fine. All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that answer. All right. This one's a good one, too. If you had the chance to sit with Jesus and ask him a question, what would it be? If you had a chance to sit with Jesus and ask him a question, what would it be? Marisa, why don't you take this one first?
So where's that famous salad bar I've heard so much about? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That was good.
I'd be like, oh, I don't even know what to say. I would just be like, I can't wait to see my art studio. It's going to be great.
There you go.
He prepares a mansion for each of us, right? So
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see what mine looks like. I'm imagining there's a lot of cats involved and a lot of art supplies. So
I love it. Can I come over and hang out at your place?
Well,
yeah,
sure.
and it'll probably have the frozen Pepsi machine that doesn't have any, baby kidneys in the Pepsi. And
Oh,
Yeah.
no. Oh, my gosh. Does Pepsi have baby kidneys in it?
Oh boy, there's nothing good in there. Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh, no. That's not good.
No, it's not good.
Why are they having people eat baby kidneys?
Oh boy, it is an old story, but it's a true one. And
Ooh,
I
tell
can
us.
look up my friend Angel Bulldog, who was in here not too long ago. She had heard about this too. It was not secret. It wasn't classified. And I forget the name of the food additive, but PepsiCo was one of the many big corporations that were admitting to using this flavor additive that had human fetal tissue in it. I think it was kidney tissue, if I'm not mistaken. I will get that information from her and give that to you, but that's been years that they've been doing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
Nothing new there. Yikes. But yeah, I would be like, what can you say? Except, thank God I'm here. And, okay, well, where do you want me? Where do you want me? Where do I go?
Jen, what about you?
What was the question again?
Sure. If you had a chance to sit with Jesus and ask him a question, what would it be?
When are you coming back? I need dates. I need times.
Yeah.
No. Oh, gosh. Huh. It's so funny. I have all these questions running through my head, but then the answer follows close behind. Like the first one, I was thinking, why did you create evil to exist? But this is something that I've thought about for years, probably the last 5 or 6 years since I've woken up to some truths in the world. It is, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but how love and beauty and kindness and all of these good things, how much brighter they shine on the backdrop of darkness. It's almost like, does that make sense? Like, it's almost like if all that existed was good, yes, it would be wonderful. But if you didn't experience the bad, and that's kind of how I've seen life, that, we were just talking about betrayals. I think when you go through betrayals and then you meet people that are true, authentic friendships, that people are open and genuine and they see you and you see them, it just makes it all the sweeter. Like, even, and I've mentioned this to you, Crips, before, where going through the marriage I went through and then being married to you, it's so completely different. But I think our marriage even is so much sweeter because of what I went through. So when I think about asking Jesus that question, not that I'm assuming that would be his answer, but how sometimes we ask a question in our head and the answer comes up behind it. like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Golly, I might ask him if pets go to heaven, if animals go to heaven. That's something I've been curious about. And if they talk. Okay. I'm so curious.
Yeah.
But I have a long list of things I'd love to ask Jesus, but that's just one.
Sure. Okay.
Welcome to my brain.
I love your brain.
Oh, thanks.
Wonderful brain. I've thought a little bit about this. There's a couple questions I would ask, but one of the ones that comes right up the top is what I would ask him what his special name for me is.
Oh. Yeah, because doesn't the Bible talk about that we have a name?
You'll get that on the white rock, man. We get a white rock with our name on it. Wouldn't that be?
I know. I know, but I don't want to wait. I want to.
You're like, I want it now.
Oh,
Because-
you don't want to wait. Well, so what he's going to say to Jesus, Jesus, I don't want to wait. Tell me now.
That's right.
Is that what you're
I
going
don't
to
want
say?
to wait.
Yeah, this is
Hey,
my
wait, wait.
answer. This is my answer, Marisa. Not yours. It's the way I'm answering the question.
We interrupt this broadcast for a moment of Paulo Coelho. Okay, there we go.
Palo Calo. Palo Jello.
Oh, that's great.
Oh man, we needed some laughs after some of those heavy
I
questions.
love it. Well, they're not all too heavy.
Yeah, I know.
All right, next one. In the afterlife, what is something you hope is part of it? The afterlife. What is something? One thing that you hope is part of the afterlife.
Ooh, pick me.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I have wondered if there's going to be food. I do love food. It'd be great if there was food in the afterlife.
You know that there is going to be food.
Well, I wouldn't ask it if I knew.
Well, there's the wedding feast. And Jesus ate fish and bread when he was in his eternal body, when he visited.
That's true.
So we know we can eat, and we know there's at least going to be one meal up there.
Yeah.
So, but if there's going to be one meal, then that tells me that there's going to be food.
Okay.
You probably don't have to eat to survive.
Yeah. And you probably don't have a digestive system.
Right.
I wonder if you'll still be able to taste.
Sure.
The other thing is, and I'm sure we'll be able to, but I've always wondered, I've listened to a couple of near-death experiencers where there's like libraries, huge libraries full of books.
Yeah.
And I love books. And on the tail end of the idea of books being in the afterlife, I've wondered if, like, how they have those movies where someone reads a book really fast. I don't know if that was in The Fifth Element, where the Mia Jovovich character like flipped through a book really fast and was able to read really fast. But that would be really cool if you could just like flip through and and not take forever. And you just store all this information and history. That'd be cool.
That's true. But you have eternity, so just keep that in mind.
That's true. That is true.
Take all the time you want.
Aha.
I've actually given this a lot of thought, and I already told Jen about this, but I hope that we're able to travel back in time and observe certain events that happened. Yes. God's holodeck.
I want to go.
God's holodeck.
Beam me up, Scotty.
I would invite you, Marisa. You and Jen.
I'll be there. We'll go.
We'll go on an adventure.
There's several things I'd like to see. I would like to see and listen to the Sermon on the Mount, and see Jesus crucified, and of course see him rise again. And I would like to observe, like the Civil War and historical moments throughout time, and watch my own life as a viewer rather than a participant. Watch my dad's childhood and my mom's childhood, learn and understand more about who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. By
That'd
seeing
really
what they
cool.
went through, to see as an observer, like you're watching a movie of your own life, but not just my life, but other people's lives too. I just always thought that was fascinating. So there that one is.
Cool.
What do you say, Jen? Oh, you said food. Marisa, did you go?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay. All right. If you could live your life over again with a memory of this one, what things would you do differently this time around? I'll go.
Okay.
If I, died in this life and God said, okay, you get a do-over.
A do-over.
And this time you'll remember this life. A couple things I would do, because if I had a memory of it, I wouldn't need to learn the same things again. I could learn different things, right? So if everything was same, born to the same parents and all of that, I would, one of the things I would have done is I would have pursued acting. I would have, as soon as I was old enough to leave home, I would have moved to California and gave it a shot at least, because there is a little bit of regret that I've never done that, because it was something I wanted to do. And yes, I understand Hollywood, baby blood, and all that stuff. And I don't want any part of any of that. But I just would like to. I love acting and I love movie making and stuff, and I would do that. Also, there are certain people that I wouldn't be friends with, Chuck. There's more than just him, but I wouldn't waste my time on people that I know would later betray me. But the biggest thing would be that I would go and find Jen sooner so that we could have a longer life together. That's the biggest thing that I would change if I had the opportunity to live things again, to do it again. What about you, Jen?
I might start reading books on psychology at an earlier age.
Oh,
to understand things. I feel like I just was woefully prepared for dysfunctional relationships and friendships. And I think a lot of my patterns were repeated because of that lack of education.
yeah.
So sometimes when I think about getting a do-over, I literally will have fantasies. Might sound funny, but I have these like imaginative fantasies of specific instances with my parents where like my dad was really scary and abusive, and me being a little kid or a younger kid, not little bit younger, and standing up for myself. I just, you get that, what is it? You're supposed to respect your parents, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it was so extreme that I had no voice.
Right.
I didn't even know that I had a choice to have a voice. It's just like, shut up, be quiet, take it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been pretty shocking for my parents if I spoke up and said things like, no, I'm not okay with this, or this isn't healthy, or, if I need more support and encouragement and hugs and I love yous, please. And thank you.
Yeah. You could ask for what you want, and then they couldn't claim ignorance.
Yeah.
If you
like, I told you what I needed.
A child telling their parent what they need, and if they don't do it, then who's it on?
Yeah. I have to say, I have to share this quick little memory.
Sure.
I was sharing with Jason the other day that the little girl I nanny, her name's Harper, and she was adopted, and she was sharing some really personal stuff with me the other day, and she was getting all teary-eyed, and it was very moving, and I was very touched that she was sharing some of these things with me. And she's a tough little cookie, and she's been through a lot. But when I asked her, I thought she was finished, and I said, "Hey, can I pray for you?" And because we'll pray sometimes, we'll hold hands and pray for her sisters or her parents or a test that's coming up or something. And she looked at me with the sweetest face, and she said, "I'm not done talking yet." And it wasn't rude; it was very sweet, But I was so tickled and delighted that she, because I feel like if I were in that position when I was her age, in an adult figure would have said, "Let me pray for you." The position I was in as a kid is you don't speak up for yourself. It's disrespectful. So even if I had more to say, I probably would have folded over and just said, "Okay, let's pray."
Yeah.
But the fact that she spoke up and said, "I'm not done talking," it delighted my heart. I was like, "Oh, okay, like, keep sharing. I'm here. Like, we don't have to pray yet." So it's those kinds of things. I'm like, dang, I wish I could have done that when I was little.
There you go.
Just speak up.
I love it. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
Marisa, if you could live your life over again with the memory of this one, what things would you do differently this time around?
Not get married when I did. Not get married when I did. Squirrel away some of Grandpa's fishing gear.
Yeah.
Some of my grandma's cookware. Actually work a few summer jobs in my teen years a little more. I mean, I did babysitting and stuff like that, but this time I would take a much more strategic approach, get through what I had to get through, store up and save up what I needed to, and then get the heck out of Dodge and go ahead and pursue art right away instead of the delay.
Yeah.
I think that wouldn't disrupt things, too much. But we've lived the life we've lived for very specific reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would even want to do that because I love that I have my children.
Sure.
And if I hadn't lived the life that I had, their fathers wouldn't be their fathers.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I might just say, no, I'm good.
Oh, okay. That's all
I'm going
right.
to go around and I'm good.
Yeah.
See how this works, Marisa? You get to answer the question any way you want.
Y'all
All right.
are so fun.
All right. We have time for one more question. I'm going to go to the last one. So this is a question. I asked this in the chat at work the other day, and everybody in our group answered. And
Oh,
I heard this from one of the books that I read. I can't think of the guy's name, but he's the one that wrote The Noticer and The Butterfly Effect and all those. Williams. Anyway, he's a fairly well-to-do guy, and he was sharing that he likes, when he goes into public, he likes to ask this question. And I thought it was a good question. He said people seem to really light up and they're willing to answer it. So the question is, if money were no object and you could live your dream job or do anything your heart desires, what would it be? Money were no object. Marisa, what do you think? Now, I feel like I know what your answer is going to be because you kind of just said it.
Well, then why don't you tell me what my answer is first?
You would set up an art studio and buy all the equipment that you need and
have a theater for
Yeah.
kids
Exactly.
on the
But if
spectrum.
money was no object, we'd expand a little more beyond that, and we'd take it on the road, and we'd get to travel
Ooh.
and go do art shows in other places, and
Sure.
and get other artists involved as well.
Like a traveling
So,
art
sure.
show. That's cool.
traveling art show. There we go.
Love
Ding,
it.
ding, ding.
Nice.
Love
I
There you
love
go.
it.
All right. What about you, Jen?
All right, ask again the question.
If money were no object and you could live your dream job or do anything your heart desires, what would it be?
I would be a children's book illustrator and writer. And
You can
write
do that.
books. Yes, write books for kids. And also travel and do speaking engagements.
Ooh.
I think, oh man, there's just so much. I feel like there's so much need in the world for people to travel around and do speaking engagements at schools, like elementary, middle school, and high school, age appropriate, of course, but talking about things regarding relationships and what to look out for, and just revolving around dysfunction in ourselves, dysfunction in families and other people, how we can avoid it or work through it, or
Yeah.
having boundaries, knowing that we have a right to say no, stuff about consent, like all of that stuff. And I know there are people that do that, but I think our world could use quite a bit more, just to get people educated.
Yeah.
I think we've all had times where we're researching things, and sometimes we see things in ourselves that we recognize that needs to change. It's not all about
Yes.
everybody else changing.
No.
But self-growth, and especially kids in middle school and high school, I wish I could have come across somebody like that would have explained to me what it means to, find your identity. And I think being a chameleon is very natural to an extent, just with the lack of education. I think it's normal for kids to do what I did and feel like you have to be a chameleon to fit in.
Yeah.
But teaching kids that they can be themselves and that God made them in a specific way with a personality and different likes and dislikes and talents and
Yeah.
creativity, and that's okay. You don't have to be like everybody else. God wants you to be specifically you. There's only one
Right.
you, and how special and what an honor that is,
Yeah. Sure.
So that would be another
Wonderful.
thing tagged on to the writing books and illustrating.
Excellent. That's good. All right. So for me, I would do a couple things. One of the things I would do is I would have enough money to have my own movie production studio, and I would write
Ooh.
scripts and act and do voiceovers and be very involved in all the projects. And I would look for other writers of screenplays and give them an opportunity without all the crap that goes on in Hollywood and having certain things that they have to look for and change the story around and all that. I would give people an opportunity. And then one of the other things I've always wanted to do is to build a playhouse, and I would put on plays, ones that I wrote, other people wrote, acting and directing, and I would also have classes and use play therapy,
Oh,
to help kids with behavioral
all kinds of
disorders and things
things.
and get them involved in acting. I actually have a friend that his whole life turned around because of that.
Oh,
Someone
wow.
came into his life and got him acting, got him involved in acting. That's Joe, babe.
Oh, wow.
With Joe, he was an
I'll have to
unruly.
ask him to hear that story.
Oh, he loves telling that story. And I met the guy. Oh, you met him. It's Captain Briggs that we met when we went to see that play.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Briggs, yeah.
I remember that guy.
Change his life, change Joe's life, and I would like to do that. So it would be a playhouse, and it would have classrooms in it, and probably summer internships, and I would put on plays all year round for people, and then I would have my movie production studio, and I would also get my master's in counseling because I would really like to have help people in that way. I would have the time and money to do that, and I wouldn't have to worry about living to pay rent. That's something I wanted to do. I went to school to be a counselor, and that's what my degree is in. And my plan was to go on to get my master's. I met my first wife, and then there was a recession, blah, blah, blah. It never happened. And I looked into it recently because there's still a part of me that wants to do that. And it just is not doable because of having to work. I mean, I would basically have to work an 8-hour job and then take online classes
At
and then
night.
at night, so I wouldn't have any time with my wonderful wife. And then when that's over, I would have 2 years of internships that you have to do to get certified.
Yeah, like training.
I don't mind doing the work. That's not a problem, but doing it unpaid. I mean, the only way I would be able to do something like that is if I won the lottery or got some big inheritance or something. But I really do have a desire to do that. I have the patience for it. And my mom told me, and I never forgot it. And this could have fit into something kind someone said to you or did for you. My mom, before she was even a counselor, she said, "You're a natural born counselor." She would wash me with my friends, and something would be upsetting to them, and I would, comfort them and kind of talk them through it and be there for them. And I've always been that way. And it's part of who I am. And it's a little bit of a shame that you have to pay all this money and go into debt in order to get a degree now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it would be.
Love it.
Yep. All right.
I love hearing y'all's dreams.
Yeah. Isn't that a good question?
It is a very good question.
Yeah. So this guy goes and when he goes out to lunch or dinner or whatever, he'll ask the waitress or waiter this question. And I think it's fascinating because people light up. They're like, what would you do if money were no object? What's your dream job? Because there's probably very few people that say my dream job is to wait hand and foot on people in a restaurant. It's probably, maybe there's someone out there that was their dream, but probably 9 times out of 10, they would prefer to do something else. I think most people would probably prefer to do something else that's in their passion. I mean, how many of us are able to do that? I mean, to go full bore into doing something that you really, really want to do. I think because this world is the way it is, and we have to work just to pay bills. A lot of us that weren't born into a extremely wealthy family, we just don't have those kind of advantages. I mean, if I had known, because when my parents had us, it was way more affordable to
Yeah, it
live.
was.
I mean, my mom worked sometimes when we got in a bind. She would pick up a side job for a while, but my dad was the sole provider. And back then it was doable. When they say that today, it says, oh, yeah, the wife should stay at home barefoot and pregnant and get the food on the table. First, it's ridiculous for a lot of reasons, but it's just not doable in most cases unless the husband has this great, fantastic job. But I don't regret not, when I was 18 or whatever, I do not regret getting a corporate climbing the ladder type of job. I mean, sometimes I wish that I had done that because then I'd be in a better place to be able to have more choices now. But when the recessions hit, people that have done that lose their jobs. I mean, I sat next to people that had been in the housing industry, had been realtors and had their own business making $250,000 a year. And they're sitting right next to me in a cubicle answering phones. So not a lot is guaranteed in this life. So you might as well do something that you really enjoy doing. Anyway, that's my message
Good
for
points.
tonight. All right. Thank you guys for being here tonight. We appreciate each and every one of you. Hope that you've enjoyed this broadcast. We'll be back again next week, Sunday. Same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We hope everyone has a good week and hope your Thanksgiving went well, and hope that you feel loved today. Hope that that someone loves you out there. You have someone that you can talk to that really knows you, a good friend or wife or husband or whatever. And if you don't, I wish that for you. I hope that you're able to find someone that really sees you and knows you. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week. Jen, do you want to take a minute and say goodbye to the peoples?
Sure. It was great to see you guys. Thank you for all of the experiences and opinions and stuff that you guys put in the chats. We love when you guys are hanging out with us and speaking up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to know if I can hang out in the castle that Bobby builds with the courtyard and drawbridge. I'm like, I want to hang out with you.
Yeah, there you go.
A small kingdom. I love that. I hope you guys have a great week. If y'all have any prayer requests, pop them in the chat. We would love to pray for you guys this week. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday. And we'll hopefully know what the topic's going to be closer to the weekend. Let you guys know.
Okay. Thanks.
Have a good night, guys. Sleep well.
All right. Last but certainly not least, Marisa, if you could say goodbye to the peoples and close us off tonight.
Certainly. Thank you, Jason. Hey, we had fun tonight. I'm sorry that we didn't have Glenn with us. Aw. Love and prayers for Glenn and Sandra while they're on their holiday. And thank you, everybody who came by tonight, everybody who participated in the chat, people who just lurked and listened. Thank you. And thank you to those who catch the replay. And I hope that you'll take a moment, if you feel moved to do so, to share the stream out on your social media. We'd love to get more people to come and join the conversation. Thank you all so much. And yes, I've been posting the suicide hotline text because it's just that time of year. And so I feel the need to put that out there for people because it is a rough time and life is worth living. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. Have a great rest of the day or rest of the night. And have a blessed week. God willing, we'll see you next Sunday on True Story Live.